What's going on, guys? Derek here from oldschoolstereo.com. Yes, cheater amplifiers. Some of you guys from the 90s know these. The Orion 225 HCCA, very popular back then. Amps like this could run multiple subwoofers. They could run, in this case, 4 15s will run off of one 50-watt amplifier. And this is because competition classes back in the day were 0 to 50 watts was like the first one. So a lot of people like to enter this class. Now we have this Old School SPL challenge now, currently in progress. And our lowest class is also 0 to 50 watts. So I thought it would be fun to do a dyno test of an amplifier from way back then. And I'm going to try it with this Kicker quad box, which is supposed to be really efficient and also handle, at least 3,000 watts or so. So I thought it would be really cool to try this in my big SUV with some old school cheater amps. And of course, why not, if we're going to do it with a Kicker quad box, why not we try a Kicker amplifier? Well, I started looking back through some of my old issues and found out in the 90s there was the X50, the X50s, and the XS50. These were all 25x2 amplifiers. You can see the respected years there and also the power given. So Kicker first entered the amplifier market around 1992 with their first cheater amp coming out in 1995, the X50 and X100. Here's a picture of the X50, which is white, very cool looking. I decided to get on Facebook and make a post. Hey, does anybody have an XS50? That's the one that actually has more power. But I did have a guy reply back, Michael, saying, hey, I have the X50s, really good condition, it works, I'll send it to you, just try it out and send it back. I was like, wow, very nice of him. So I took him up on the offer. Here's the amplifier, looks very nice in condition. But let's go back to the 1996 Car Audio and Electronics directory here so we can take a closer look at this amp and some of the specs. Now in this particular year they had two different competition models, the X100S and the X50S. X50S $549, rated 25 watts times 2, stable down to 1 ohm mono or half an ohm stereo. Now I also had another gentleman send me the XS50, which I'm showing here in size comparison, which is way bigger than the X50S, but we'll get to that in a future video. Now the thing I really like about Kicker equipment, amps and speakers and everything is you just go to their website, click on support tech, go to manuals, and man, it goes right here, choose your category, in this case amplifiers, and then we're going to choose competition power amplifiers, which is right at the top. We'll scroll back up, pick that, and here it is, the X50 and X50S. So we'll go ahead and click on that, and here you go. You can actually get the full manual scanned in, which is very nice. Not all manufacturers do this, but we greatly appreciate having this on hand. So here's the amp itself. Looks really nice. We'll take a closer look at the dimensions as well. 12.9 inches long, 7.1 inches wide with the millimeter equivalents, and then for the height, 3 inches or 76.2 millimeters. Now the amp here has this little plastic panel at the top where the Kicker logo is and the emblems. You have to lift that up, and then on the bottom it gives you the layout of the inputs and outputs for the amplifier. So it's nice this is on the back of this piece, but if you lose this or it's missing from your amp, you can actually look in the manual too. Here you can see the one side of the amp that has all the different connections on it as well as the fuses, including the 230 amp fuses. Then I just got the sheet here off Kicker site. We have the right and left inputs, gain control, the module socket, the module outputs, the speaker outputs, and then the remote ground and battery. The ground and battery are 8 gauge in this case. Now here's this module we're talking about. Pull this module out, and of course the amplifier comes with what's called just a dummy module, which means it doesn't have any equalization, crossover, anything built in. But it shows you what it looks like, gives you an idea. You do have to have this module, or at least one of the modules, for the amplifier to work. If you pull this out, the amplifier will not start up, and they say it could damage the amp, so I don't recommend you do that. Make sure you have at least the dummy module.
You big dummy!
And it's easy to push back into the amp. It just kind of glides in on like a slotted tray, and then it snaps in at the very end. Now, in addition to the dummy module that comes with the amp, there were 7 other modules, including 3 for crossover, subwoofer, mid-range, and tweeter crossover, and then specialty models including the active electronic enclosure, the AEQ, active EQ, the ACR, which is the active center rear fill, and then my favorite, the ARG, the active remote gain. We'll talk about that again in a minute. And here's a Kicker ad from 1992 that shows off these modules here at the bottom, saying it has endless flexibility, all that good stuff. Here in 1995, Auto Sound and Security, they actually had a special where they had a whole article about these modules for the amplifier. And if anybody wants this, I'll have a PDF available in the video description below if you need this. But it talks about all the 7 different types of modules here and a lot of detail about what each one does. So this is really cool. In addition, I found the pricing in an old Crutchfield catalog. You can see all the modules here are $39.99 with the exclusion of the ARG, the active remote gain controller, which, you know, we like to have gain control for sure. That was $55. So we got to make sure we give the amp more gain. Get you one of those. Now, as far as the ratings go, you can see 25 watts per channel at 4 ohms and as much as 340 bridged at 1 ohm or 170 by 2 at 1/2 ohm. Here we have the amplifier hooked up on the test bench. You can see the RCAs, the speaker wires, again, the remote, power, and ground all hooked up. And we'll show you here that this little cover that slides down, unfortunately, kind of bumps into the wires and doesn't slide all the way down. I was wondering if you're actually supposed to route the wires a different way, but then I looked in the manual, it actually says you're supposed to break out part of this plastic piece so that your wires can go through. All right, here we have the Kicker X50s all wired up. Thank goodness we had this, otherwise we wouldn't know which is the remote, which is the ground, which is the 12 volt, and then the 2 outers, left plus right minus for bridging the amplifier here. And then this is the RCA ends, and this is the outputs which pass through the module. This is a bypass module, so it doesn't do a whole lot. 230 amp fuses. We got the test light hooked up to the negative before we hooked it up, and it did charge up the cap, so that's a good sign. But I'm gonna turn it on now, and hopefully it does not blow up. So I'm just wanting to catch this on video. Here we go. All right, looks like the power red LED is on. I guess that's supposed to be red, not green. All right, let's hook it up to the dyno and try it out. All right, guys, I'll be honest with you. Firing up a 25-year-old amplifier to put it on the dyno is never a fun thing for me because it's always scary. Make sure you smash me a thumbs up, subscribe if you like my content, and check the video description for links to my merch. You want to buy a cool t-shirt. Now, we're going to run all the tests in the bridged mono operation, and I'll explain that a little more as we go through it. Here at 8 ohms, bridge mono is the same as 4 ohms stereo, so it's rated 50 watts or 25 watts by 2 at 4 ohms. Here you can see we got 66 watts at 14.28, so we got that rated power plus a little more. Then we'll try uncertified up to the clipping point. 69 watts, 14.24 volts. And then we'll rewire for the dynamic test. And 69 watts here dynamically. Now all the tests were run at 40 hertz, just so you know that. Efficiency at 8 ohms, 55%. This is a class AB amp, so do not expect high efficiency numbers. 4 ohms, bridge mono rated 100 watts or 50 watts times 2 at 2 ohms. Certified first, here we go, 123 at 14.41, so about 20% over the rated power. And this amp is from 1996, so it's 25 years old and still doing its rated power. I don't think it's ever been repaired, so that's really awesome. Uncertified up to clipping, 128, 14.34. And we'll do the last test here and try the dynamic pulse track at 40 hertz. This amp has a regulated power supply, so it does not have large dynamic numbers. You will notice that. They're actually very close to the certified and uncertified numbers. 128, 14.32. And efficiency, yep, it's going to keep going down. 51% at 4 ohms mono. Now we're going to try 2 ohms mono. It's rated 200 watts. What can we get? Certified first. 222, 14.46. So we love about some Kicker. They always do rated, except for the one little small amp I tested a while back. Uncertified, 227. Nope, 228, 14.42. This regulated power supply is really showing off how it works. Dynamic. I think it's going to stop there at 228. Yep, 228 at 14.42. Efficiency 43% at 2 ohms mono. That's 1 ohm stereo per channel. This is a Class AB amp. All right, now 1 ohm mono. It's rated 340 watts at 1 ohm mono. That's half an ohm per stereo channel for a 1996 amp. There you go, 350 certified, rated 340. So it did its power plus a little bit more and did not blow up. I was impressed. Uncertified, up to clipping. 40 hertz again. 358, 14.34. So I'm just clapping here in the background in case you can hear it. Dynamic, sends a pulse tone into the amp. There you go. 361, 14.38. Now get ready for this efficiency. Hold your breath. 32%. What? Yep, old school cheater amps for you, my friends. Now, as far as results go, you guys just saw all the tests. I'll just show the dyno sheet here. You can pause this if you'd like to capture it. But I am going to have one additional test after the end credits at the end. I'm going to lower the voltage. We're going to try it out at a lower voltage to see if it can still do its power. Now, what's inside? 1996 old school components. Now, this one, with this amp, you have to actually take out some Allen keys on the top of the amp. I believe there were 6 of them total. They were in extremely tight and not a good way for me to get an Allen key in, so I had to use little Richard here and get it pried so it would turn for me. And then once I was able to get one of them done, I could get the rest. And then this is much like the Kicker X50s that I showed a while back. It's kind of clamshell, so it's in 2 different parts. There's a board on the top and a board on the bottom. And you can't really open it fully without knowing what you're doing, and I don't know what I'm doing, so I didn't want to mess it up. Borrowed this from a dude, so you're just going to have to look inside a Pac-Man here and see what you can see. Capacitors, and then you see some wiring inside. You see the transformer and some components there. Look like they're through the whole components. There's a few surface mount components as well, some relays, and there's the module socket. It accepts the modules. Now, something I really thought about for the Do It Bump Doe section. What I want to do is put this in the Sequoia using this Kicker quad box and find out how much SPL I can get. Now, what I want you guys to do is I'm going to make this part 2, but I want you guys to guess below how much SPL do you think I'll get? What's my numbers I'm going to get with this amp in the Sequoia? And who knows, somebody may win something. I don't know yet. I haven't decided, but just leave your comment about what numbers you think I'll get. And here's the plastic panel. We put it back on. Overall, we're very impressed that this amp survived the test. It's an old school cheater amp, not high power by today's standards at all. It was fun to test it though, and yeah, it did its rated power. So thanks for watching as always. Big D. Till next time, I'm out of here. As promised, I wanted to let the voltage drop a little bit to around 13. Let's try that 1 ohm test again and see if we can get that rated power. Alright guys, here's the Kicker X50s. We've let the voltage drop a little bit. We're at 13.3 starting, so it should be just a little bit over 13 at the end. Amp is rated 340 watts at 1 ohm mono between 12.5 and 16 volts because it is regulated. So let's try it out here. 1 ohm certified 40 hertz with lower voltage. All right. So we're right there at the rated power, 336 at 13.11. It's rated 340. This amp is, what, 25 years old? Yeah, 25 years old, so that's not bad at all.